Are you ready to be the change? If so, you've come to the right place. You are about to join a movement of entrepreneurs who are empowering people, saving the planet, and turning their passion into profits while creating the lifestyle of their dreams. If you don't believe us, check out our website at entrepreneursforchange.com, a place where you can be inspired, mentored, and supported by a tribe of change-making entrepreneurs just like you. Now, before diving into the interview, I want to encourage you to rate, review, and download Entrepreneurs for a Change on iTunes. This really helps us reach more people with inspiring stories of entrepreneurs who are changing the world. Also, if these stories inspire you to start a world-changing business of your own, head over to our website at entrepreneursforchange.com and download the Business Changemakers Toolkit to get a jumpstart today. Now on to the show. Hello, amazing changemakers. This is Lorna Lee for another episode of Entrepreneurs for a Change, and welcome to number 63. Today we have as our guest Jocelyn Gordon, who is the creator of the holistic fitness programs HoopYogini and Bhakti Boogie Yoga. Jocelyn is passionate about helping women liberate themselves from TraumaDrama, the stories that hold them back from their full potential. Oh, I can't wait to dive into this topic with you. And I think I could liberate myself from a little TraumaDrama myself. So, Jocelyn is joining us from beautiful tropical paradise of Bali, Indonesia, to share with us what it takes to start and grow a wellness lifestyle business. So, Jocelyn, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Thank you, Lorna. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to spend concentrated time with you and to learn more about what you do and how you communicate with your people.
Yeah, so I should mention for the benefit of the audience, Jocelyn and I met at a fantastic conference that I highly recommend if you consider yourself to be an evolutionary change maker. That conference is called Awesomeness Fest, and it's hosted by a company called Mind Valley that is pioneering online education as we know it. They focus on transformational educational programs and media. And so they have Awesomeness Fest twice a year in the East and in the West. So Jocelyn and I met at Awesomeness Fest Phuket, Thailand this past year. And so that's when I discovered her amazing work with these holistic fitness modalities. So I would love to find out, Jocelyn, what is your story? How on earth did you end up on this path to creating a business that clearly allows you to change the lives of the many, many people that you come into contact with, and also generate abundance through your purpose-driven business?
Wow, thank you. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that I'm stubborn and probably a bit narrow-minded in terms of how I feel or what I feel my service is at this time on the planet. And I remember just coming in as a young one, gaining consciousness and wondering, what is this about? What is this? This is weird. Like, who are these people? You know, like that song, how did I get this house? How did I get this car? And just kind of coming in with this consciousness of what's going on here on this planet. And that led me to really be quite intentional about what I was to be doing on this planet, given the opportunity of my life. So for a very young age, or since a very young age, I've been quite focused on my purpose. And what's been consistent is dance. Movement is my first love. It's how I communicate with the universe. It's how I have really deep conversations with people without words. It's a conduit of joy, and it simply activates good feelings really, really quickly, and probably the most direct conduit for joy that works for my body. So I also come from a very progressive family, very entrepreneurial African-American family who overcame many challenges in the U.S. and just have a strong legacy of community service and achievement. So I walk in the footsteps of my ancestors with that, which can sometimes be very challenging in terms of my inner quality of life. There's a high sense of achievement that goes on, and sometimes that can be antagonistic to the values that I also have about daily self-care and nurturance and wellness. But that aside, I would say early intention, family lineage, and also just, I have a degree in marketing and French. However, I'm not necessarily an accountant. I'm not an attorney. Embodiment, movement, this is my skill set of expertise. This is what my life's work. So for better or for worse, I have a lot of focus in the sense of what I'm doing in helping people be more alive and embodied. Now, there's also the skill sets. I've been educated. I have had great mentors. I've been practicing and training in dance since I was 5, and massage therapy as well. Very young, I started a reflexology apprenticeship with my grandmother's reflexologist. So unbeknownst to me, I've just, at that time, I was set up to really be a kinesthetic communicator. And then that led to dancing in New York City, becoming a yoga, massage, and dance therapist, so like a multidisciplinary healing artist, mixed with a strong sense of entrepreneurship. So all of those years, what did the book Outliers say? I probably have about 10,000 years of expertise or time in this, mixed with just really wanting to have my life to myself. My mom and my dad worked for corporate America, and they really soared in that. But as a child, I saw that it took a lot of time away from other things that they were possibly interested in. It took a lot of time away from me, so I felt. And it demanded pretty much 90% of their focus. So that too, I was like, I don't think that's the path for me. For me, it felt like a chain to be chained to this large corporate dynamic. Although I see that it also created a beautiful lifestyle. So I'm not knocking that. It's just that for me, freedom of movement on all levels has been of the highest priority.
It's so interesting. I feel like I really resonate with your upbringing in a certain way, because my parents are also career people. They were so focused on their corporate careers that, even when they were in the house, they weren't entirely present. And so, I was one of those kids that was like a latchkey kid. I'd find the key stashed away someplace, and I'd let myself in the house, and I'd be alone for a few hours until my parents came back from their jobs in New York. And I think that really, deeply affected me, because, one thing that I kind of, when I thought about why it was, one of the main reasons why I decided to go into entrepreneurship, especially online entrepreneurship, was the fact that I didn't want to be tied to a corporation and have to commute long hours and spend most of my time and energy focused on, my role as an employee in that company, and then afterwards going out to networking events and, kind of like rapport building with my colleagues, and, not being able to have any time for my loved ones. So the beauty of location independent internet entrepreneurship is, it just gives you that freedom. But what I love about your business too is that you incorporate so much movement and dance into it. So I'm kind of curious to know, because a lot of entrepreneurs, they end up connecting with their purpose and launching a business as a result of specific experiences that occurred in their lifetime. So on one hand, I see that the dance, passion for dance that you've had has been something that's been lifelong, and you've certainly identified that is your zone of genius. But then what were some of the defining moments in your life that caused you to embark upon your, entrepreneurial journey? Because entrepreneurship is not easy. I mean, if you want to have an easy way to generate an income, that, be an employee, but, being an entrepreneur is kind of like stepping into the fire. So, often what I see is an even bigger fire cause these entrepreneurs that I've spoken to step into the fire of entrepreneurship. So what was that for you?
Early on as well, seeing my family, looking through the lens of innocence and seeing my parents come home with all this work and their teams. So that was clear for me. I don't want that, so to speak. I don't want that path, which was titled Corporate America in my innocent mind at that time. Also, again, the lineage of just going out there, like there was an expectation of achievement in my family. So that strong drive of like, okay, I have to stand with these achievers, like, but I have to do it my way because I know that path that they've paved is not exactly the right fit for me. So that's, again, where the stubbornness comes in. I also had my own pivotal health challenges, such as when I was a child between the ages of 8 to 12, I had epileptic seizures in my sleep, which is a gift, actually. And that led to a profound experience. One night when I was 10, I started to wake up in a lucid space with the sensations of having a seizure. And I just didn't feel like having one that night. I just was like not having it. And so again, in my innocence, I said no, just in that lucid theta space. And I have not had a seizure since that moment. Technically, I was undiagnosed of epilepsy when I was 12, but between 10 ages that night to 12, and since I've not had one. So that, and also, again, I have had the experience of sexual abuse, and that created an awareness of, I felt my voice actually leave my body, or I became disempowered because my voice left. So there's been this journey of reclaiming voice and self and body and life and pleasure that has also motivated me to like heal myself through these other modalities where I thought I was using them to be of service primarily. But of course, as it all works out, it's for the self as well. When I lived in New York City, I went to a headhunter, and she found me these really great jobs at these really wonderful companies like Revlon and whatnot. And I just couldn't get past, like with corporations like that there would be a level of, I really value right livelihood. And I know that sometimes with large corporations, people get lost and money goes places that I'm not certain would be really aligned with my values. So I was offered great jobs in these wonderful, well-known companies like the Louis Vuitton Corporation and Wall Street Journal. And I just couldn't do it. And maybe that was my own ignorance, but I just couldn't do it as a young 20-year-old woman. I could see the whole path paved, but I was like, there's just too many things I don't know about where these millions of dollars are going, and that made me uncomfortable. So again, really standing for right livelihood, offering service to the world that's going to help and certainly not hurt. That's a really big area of my focus. Again, having a degree in marketing in French, I always knew that I'd be working on an international level. And somehow it all came together. I wish I could give you like a more definitive moment, but it seems like it's been an unfolding into the entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and indeed, it's always an unfolding journey. I mean, there were moments in my life, for example, where I could say that was a defining moment, but how it ended up turning into the form that it is now was certainly an evolution. So I'm curious to know how you developed HoopYogini and Bhakti Boogie Yoga. And I should also say, for the benefit of the audience, that Jocelyn will share with us how to actually create an irresistible holistic fitness program and certification process in the masterclass, which you can get from the show notes at episode at entrepreneursforchange.com/63. So why did you decide to develop these two particular holistic fitness programs?
Well, I've watched yoga studios and other centers create certification programs. One, because for many of these venues, it's a cash cow. It's how they generate large sums of money, for one short period of time beyond their recurring income with classes. So I watched my friends and studio owners do that. Also, for 6 years, I was the director of teacher training for a company that is focused on adult hoop dance education. And that's kind of when my career soared, believe it or not, as an adult in my 30s. That's when I started traveling the world professionally, teaching and making money, certifying others, and at that time, their modality of movement. That really showed me how to, it gave me an initiation into pedagogy and basically how to teach and how to present information to different styles of learners so that they can actually receive it and replicate it in an enriching way. To be honest, Lorna, and what I just said, I forgot the question.
I was kind of curious about, like, you know, what it takes and like what inspired you to develop these two programs. You know, because I mean, you can keep going and, you know, teaching other people's modalities, but I think there's a certain creative leap that one makes between practicing somebody else's acro yoga program or, you know, Zumba program to developing your own. And, you know, sometimes people develop their own simply because, well, they want to do it a certain way and there was no modality that existed, so they decide to make it themselves. So, you know, how did HoopYogini and Bhakti Boogie yoga come into being?
Into the world. So when I was in my teens, probably 16 to 18, I had a strong spiritual practice of dance. Now I'm calling it a spiritual practice because the yoga world calls it a sadhana, a daily spiritual discipline. So I had a very intimate daily discipline of dance and poetry writing combined with all those hormones and being moody. But it was a very highly creative, personal time in my life. And years later, I was an artist in residence at the Esalen Institute. And I walked into a class and saw this woman facilitating a movement experience. And there was a man in the middle of the circle and his peers were coaching him to like be present, let go, move, release, express. And as I watched, I was really astounded. I was like, what? People want this? Like, people will pay you to encourage them to move? And I was like, I've been doing this in my bedroom since I was 16. You mean that time is actually something that people would want, demand, and need? So that was a big awakening moment. And I am deeply grateful to the facilitator, Ellen Watson. She is an elder in my life, and she started the Esalen Movement Arts program and was there at Esalen along the same time as Ida Rolf and Gabrielle Roth, and just all these amazing mavericks in embodied wellness. So that was a defining moment. That led me to just really go for it. At the time or shortly thereafter, I went into a yoga teacher training program, and our graduating program was basically we had to present a course. We had to present a workshop. So that was easy. I just was meditating and came through Bhakti Boogie yoga. Bhakti meaning to offer up from the heart, and boogie meaning to get down. And that's been my practice. It's been this like fun form of prayer, for lack of a better word, that just kind of releases a lot of the seriousness and the dogma and religiosity, just letting that go and going straight to connecting with inspiration. And so that's what happened. That was about 2007. And then I was also in a yoga therapy program, a very advanced program, around the time that hooping came to me. And as soon as I got into the hoop, it was evident that the hoop satisfied my loves of massage, of dance, of meditation, and yogic stretching. I spent 3 hours a day organically with my own intimate practice with the hoop. At the same time, I was teaching and certifying others in the modality I mentioned before, not mine. But that was a really great time for HoopYogini to germinate. I had my experience of massage. I had the yogic therapeutic, so I understood how asanas affect the body, mind, energy, and spirit. And so with the symbol of the hoop being really profound and, again, non-religious, non-dogmatic, it became very clear to me that the hoop would be this perfect, friendly portal to invite people into transformation in a way that's fun, pleasurable, and joyful.
I love that. Transformation that's fun, pleasurable, and joyful. My God. Let me tell you, I spent 3 years in a Tibetan meditation center in Berkeley. And, you know, when you mention like the religious dogma, it just brings me back to that place because, you know, we were all focused on transformation and practicing the Dharma. And one thing that I noticed with that particular community was like everyone was pushing themselves so hard. We logged so many hours trying to, to do our karma yoga to the point where like people were actually getting injured because they were pushing their bodies so hard and doing a lot of repetitive motions, especially around wrapping books. We'd sent hundreds of thousands of Tibetan books to Bodh Gaya, India, every year during the World Peace Ceremony. And so, it really took me a few years to kind of deprogram myself out of this idea that transformation had to be painful and, kind of like, in a certain way, like self-esteem effacing, so to speak. It was, so I really I just, love the fact that you are, forwarding this, this experience of transformation that is joyful and empowering. Now, one thing that I, am really intrigued by was in your bio, you had mentioned, how you really, are passionate about helping women liberate themselves from trauma drama. So I'd love to kind of dive into that some more, simply because what I've discovered with entrepreneurship is that different from being an employee, when you're an entrepreneur, not only is it much more challenging because you have to self-generate all your business and you have to pretty much grow your business on your own, especially when you're just getting started, sometimes, more often than not, during the process, all your shit comes up. And then, as part of becoming a successful entrepreneur, a lot of the work that actually the most important work that one needs to do in order to claim entrepreneurial success is not just mastering business strategy, but it's also mastering your inner world, mastering your inner game, and being able to really, kind of come to terms with some of the past that may still be holding you back or, creating self-limiting beliefs and stories. So I'd love to hear from you. What is trauma drama actually, and how does that keep entrepreneurs stuck?
Well, I was just nodding my head based on everything you just said. And entrepreneurship is definitely a self-development experience because, oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Someone said to me, you're on an accelerated self-development curve.
Yes. And it's very obvious the areas where I get stuck, very obvious to see the things I delay or procrastinate. Now I know that's evidence of fear, which is usually can also be related to perfectionism. Not sure I'm going to have all the strategy done. So if I don't have all the strategy done, then I can't exactly launch it all. And so my own pathology is delay based on perfectionism, which has a strong cord with unworthiness. So these are the fun things you get to dive into when you're an entrepreneur. Yes. Oh my goodness. And I found that it helps me, and that this is something I'm actively implementing in my life, is to have partnerships and accountability partnerships and co-working experiences where I'm not just left in my own world of, ruminating these things, that there's people that I can talk to about and people who reflect back what's really true, and that's helping me move forward. There's still stuff to move through. What can I say? Trauma drama, those are the stories that hold us back. And it has a lot to do with victimhood, such as this happened to me, therefore I can't move forward in my life. I can't do that thing I want. I can't be in that relationship because this happened. I'm damaged kind of things. For me, it could have been, I was sexually abused when I was 10, 11, or 12, therefore I can't love, or I can't be a leader, or whatever the mind might say that they can't do. So I find that a lot of women are kind of stuck. Some women are stuck in that replay of trauma drama in their subconscious or in their forward thinking mind. And there's a lot of, so the big can be a big blockage. So I'm aware that all change happens through the body, and that the body is a very wise vessel. So through body-centered coaching practices and creating a safe container for exploration, these things can come forward, not in a way of re-traumatizing, but in a way of integrating. So it's not even about pushing it away or suppressing. It's really about, for me, has always been about integrating the experience, integrating the wisdom, and letting it be in that soup of amazing that lends to offering something very valuable to family, community, world.
You know, I totally agree with you in that the body really is a vessel of wisdom. I can't tell you how often when some type of path that I was on was not ultimately right for me, that my body had to go ahead and intervene. So an example of that was there was this one experience I had where I don't even know what it was. I think it was some kind of like food poisoning or something where all of a sudden I was breaking out into full body hives. And I had such like intense abdominal pain that I was like literally on the floor of my friend's bathroom. And fortunately, so we were I was staying at my friend's house and she had just had a party, and the one other person that was awake at that time, everyone else had left, was the DJ. And so thank God he was awake. It was around 4 a.m, and I had him drive me to the emergency room. And so, we did that. There is definitely a lot of wisdom to paying attention to your body signals. If there's something that's not right about a scenario, if you find yourself getting sick or not being able to show up to that meeting or meet that person who's pitching you that opportunity, maybe it's actually telling you that that is not the right opportunity or the right person to be in partnership with.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also curious. Yeah, and I'm also curious to know too. You had mentioned a little bit earlier that women seem to tend to get stuck by their trauma drama stories. Do you find this to be more common with women than with men?
Thanks for asking that. I have to be honest in saying I've worked more intimately with women in this context than with men. So perhaps, I can't say definitively, but it's just my experience with women. And men, they have their stories too. Maybe it comes out a different way for them. Women are a bit more expressive in communicating what's going on for them, kind of like in a real-time way. And so we have already a precedent of sharing. And so for me, I found that it's kind of easy to hear the stories of trauma drama based on the body language and the way I hear women communicating. But I'm certain men have trauma drama too.
It probably manifests in different types of stories. There's just, each gender I've noticed is, like we women have our kind of like gender-based pain and the stories that get passed down through the lineages and through society and culture. And then men also have, their pain and, stories too. And, so it's kind of interesting, and at the same time, I think there's so much healing that really needs to be done through, between both genders, and how we can release that pain and really reclaim our human potential, both just whatever as an individual and then also collectively as a gender and collectively as humanity.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I'm actually quite fascinated with, gender identification, because I think it has such a big imprint of potential for humanity, especially in acknowledging the masculine, feminine that exists inside ourselves, and also acknowledging the spaciousness between those polarities and the opportunity to kind of be a more integrated society. And by creating space for people who are like, hey, I'm not this, I'm not that, or actually I came in this, but I identify with that. So on a cultural level, like the gender identification, I think is really powerful. And I feel it lends into the kind of new agey dialogue about marriage of the inner masculine and feminine, so we can be more integrated beings.
So in your work as a transformational coach, how do you help your clients move from a place of stuckness in their trauma drama stories to really becoming, the most magnificent expression of themselves?
Thank you for asking. Well, a big step is creating a space of safety for whether that's an individual or a group experience. Often, many coaches express confidentiality that can be important to many people. And then coming to the body, not so much as to focus on what's wrong, because I think that's a big part of our culture is like focusing on what's wrong. And I know personally that can, when I focus on that too long, it can really affect my self-esteem. So coming to the body more of like, show me, tell me, I'm open, I'm listening, that has a much better feeling than tell me what's wrong and hopefully I can fix it, but I'm not really sure. Or I'm doubtful. Then there's going through, it depends on the client, the person, and the environment, what steps we take to encourage that dialogue, whether it be standing body scans. I'm really big on asana, but not from like, oh, you have to be bendy and do a lot of postures. But asana means earth seat. And there's an inner asana as well as an outer asana. And I'm really fascinated by inner asana because we don't walk around in our lives in a warrior one, going to a horse dance, going to a malasana, squat. These postures have archetypes, they have wisdom, and that we can come to them on a physical level, but ultimately it's to stimulate their wisdom on an internal level. So a lot of what I offer is about, one, identifying a predominant asana that's running the show. For me, for some time, it was shame asana, and shame asana has a posture just as well as child's pose has a posture. And that posture of shame can actually be more powerful in its internal hidden nature than the one that's more expressed on a yoga mat or in a HoopYogini practice. So identifying perhaps a predominant asana that's going on. And I wouldn't necessarily use this language with all my clients, depends on the situation. But checking in to see what is happening, and then creating dialogues. If I'm working with a group, the dialogue it'll start on the inside. A lot of my work is very internally focused. And then we have others as a mirror reflecting back that dynamic or reflecting other possibilities to move through that dynamic. I also believe that the dance floor space is like a holodeck, kind of like from Star Wars, or not Star Wars, Star Trek. And that the hologram of the dance floor is a safe space for practicing how we would like to be in life. So if we want to bring in the posture of more courage or being more inspired or more alive or more participatory, then the dance space is a safe container for going there. And since we're relating with others, then ultimately we can take that template out into other areas of life. So that's pretty much the work I offer out, whether it be, again, in a physical capacity, in an individual capacity through Skype, or in a group or workshop experience.
I remember during Awesomeness Fest, you were offering something around Theta healing. Can you tell me more about what Theta healing is?
Yes. Theta healing came into my life 3 years ago, and through a dear sister at Wanderlust Festival, Squaw Valley. That was a pretty good event that year. And it was a half an hour appointment, and I was late, came 15 minutes and into the session. And I was astounded by how quickly we went very deep. And in those 15 minutes, the topics of mother, money, and men came up. And those are all really kind of intense subjects.
Certainly, yeah, I can see, especially for women.
Yes, mother, money, men. And I was completely wowed with how clear we got to the subconscious programs that we're playing. So the subconscious being like an operating system that has its programs and ways of being. And mine, we're saying all kinds of things. Like I had the program, all men are perpetrators, that came from a past experience. And I didn't I didn't realize that, until that moment. And then when I heard it, I was like, oh my gosh, I believe this for so many years. This has been running the show in terms of like how I pick potential partners, especially because I have a daughter. And it was just mind blowing in 15 minutes. So at that time, I felt like I had been maxed up with certifications and workshops. So I was kind of taking a break. However, I was fascinated by that. So I just went into the Theta Healing Program again. This time less like, I'm not necessarily going to hang a shingle and promote this as a modality I offer. I'm just going to go in with curiosity and see what's there. And it's been really amazing as a way to, again, access those programs that are running the show while one is completely ignorant. And yet this one thing is like creating all kinds of misunderstanding. So Theta Healing brings those to the forefront and provides an opportunity to release and replace with truth statements.
Okay. That sounds incredibly powerful. A little bit like NLP.
Yeah. It's not unlike many different modalities. A lot of work focuses on upgrading the subconscious.
It's so funny. I can hear the roosters in the background. It's such a Balinese sound, also very Thai sound as well. Like people just have their roosters and dogs like running around in the street, I'd love to hear from you. What is it like to be based in Bali? Because I thought about going to Bali and being based there for, at least part of the year. And I kind of disqualified Bali because I found the internet to be unworkable. But I think, but it sounds pretty clear to me speaking to you. So tell me what life is like as an entrepreneur in Bali.
Well, again, as a young age, I visualized myself like with a laptop at the ocean. That was my idea of success, of having this location-free lifestyle. So that's happened in my subconscious, that I'm like, you know what? I have a business that has been taking me around the world teaching. So really, I don't have to be in one specific place all the time. And Bali is a place I've been visiting and teaching in for 5 years. I feel like Bali energy is a feminine energy, and that she always has something to teach me. And I received so much from my time here that I wanted to return that generosity by really being intimate and present with Bali, not just like coming in and out occasionally, but really spending a bit more time to be present with her. So right now I'm looking at these amazing trees. When I look through my daughter's window, if I stand up, there's rice fields. So there's like 360 degrees of rice fields.
Oh, wow. I love it.
Yeah. Big coconut trees. Where we're staying is on a Balinese family compound. So you'll hear family life and the roosters and the dogs and coconuts, which my partner loves. And this amazing architecture, high ceilings, lots of wood, stone.
Wow. Are you living in Ubud or closer to the beach like Seminyak?
I'm an Ubudian.
Ubud is so much like that. There's a reason why they call Bali Balifornia. When I went to Ubud, I like walked around and like looked at all these like raw food restaurants and these yoga studios. I'm like, I'm gonna run into somebody I know here. I'm absolutely certain. And lo and behold, I did.
I have to say, for a Westerner, Bali could be possibly an easy landing pad in the sense that there's a strong expat community here. But you are also so clearly in Southeast Asia. You're so clearly not at home. It's so obvious. The Balinese practices, their spiritual practices are woven into every moment of every day. There'll be times when you think you're going to get to Ubud in 5 minutes, but actually it takes longer because there's a cremation ceremony and the whole village is walking in the street, at 2:00 in the afternoon. So you're so clearly not in Kansas. And that's one of the things I love about it.
One of the things I loved about Bali was riding my scooter like through these rice paddy fields, and just it was just this sense of like liberation and freedom, basically freedom. So
my daughter loves that.
Oh, does she live there with you?
She goes to the Green School.
How awesome.
Which is, pretty awesome. And she's been visiting Bali since she was 9. And we quickly found out that one of her favorite things to do is ride on the back of my motorbike. And just like, let's go for a ride, Mama.
Fun. So Green School is the eco-friendly school in Bali that's based on, is it the American education system or International Baccalaureate?
It's more Australian, but they're now bringing in Singapore math and other programs. So.
Wow. Yeah. And is the expat community in Bali more transient, like people don't really stay that long, or is there a solid community of expats that have been based there for a long time and a year or intend to stay for years?
There's all of the above. So I have girlfriends, actually 2 other single moms who have been here raising their children, running their businesses for 22 years.
Wow. Well, I've got to come visit sometime.
Please do. You have a welcome committee.
Awesome. So we're about at the end of our segment, and I just want to leave you with a couple questions, 2 of my favorite questions. The first is, what is your most powerful mindset tool for success?
Well, I can tell you right now, in response to known patterns of delay, avoidance based on that fear that it's not perfect yet. My new mindset is reminding myself that everything is love, and I guess, so to speak, the pronoia, that everything's working on behalf of my well-being, as it is working on the behalf of the well-being of your well-being and everyone else. So being pronoid, and when an email comes up or I have to address something that makes me feel uncomfortable, I'm remembering that there's a masquerade happening in existence, and behind every mask, which could be me or you or an uncomfortable situation or a pleasant situation, but behind every single mask is love, and love is only always for growth and the expansion of existence. So that has been my most powerful recent mindset to move forward and to move through some upper limit challenges that kind of tweak my spine sometimes.
Okay, and so this last question is my most favorite question to ask world-changing entrepreneurs. Jocelyn, what do you think is the most effective way to change the world?
Well, like Gandhi said, it's to focus, not so much to focus on yourself in a self-centered way, but instead of projecting outward what's wrong and trying to compel other people and governments, so to speak, to change what's wrong, I feel it's best to look inside for wisdom and growth, and then let that be reflected outwardly.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. How can we best stay in touch with you?
JocelynGordon.com, as well as HoopYogini.com.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. And listeners out there, you can go to entrepreneursforchange.com/63 and hear Jocelyn Gordon's masterclass on how to create an irresistible certification program for your unique holistic fitness brand. So thank you so much for joining us today. You have a beautiful morning in Bali.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks, for listening to the Entrepreneurs for a Change podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us reach more people with inspiring stories like this one by giving us a 5-star rating in iTunes. If this podcast inspires you to join the movement of change-making entrepreneurs, we'd love to give you a jumpstart with our free Business Changemakers Toolkit, which you can download at www.entrepreneursforachange.com/join. If you have a changemaker in mind you'd love for us to interview, go to entrepreneursforachange.com/suggest and tell us who and why. Finally, feel free to stop by facebook.com/entrepreneursforachange to share your thoughts and say hello.